Hi, and welcome to Noble Character Crafts. My name is Amy, and I'm coming to you from eastern Nebraska, where I live with my husband and our 5 children. Today is Friday, February 28th, 2025. A huge welcome to any new or returning viewers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you really enjoyed this episode. This is a channel all about my crafty life, and today I have crocheting and knitting to share with you all. I will have links to the places that you can find me in the description box below, as well as the show notes for this episode. I'm hosting a year-long make-along again this year called the Make 9 2025 Mal. That's for you to join in the Make 9 challenge, where you can choose 9 projects that you would like to work on this year, make a grid of those projects, post it to Instagram, including the hashtag Make 9 2025 Mal, and then anytime you post a picture of one of your works in progress from your board or one of your finished objects, then you can also include that hashtag, and that will enter you in the chance to win a prize, which I draw periodically throughout the year. I have a few more prizes to give away today. If I recall correctly, I believe all of these gifts were given to me by a viewer of this channel named Jacqueline, and I am so thankful for her generosity, and now I get to share the love with those of you who have been participating in the make-along. The first prize I have to give away are these 2 gorgeous hanks of yarn. Aren't they so pretty? They even look nice together, I think, with a little bit of purple here in this one. This is by Hedgehog Fibers. It's on a sock yarn base, which is 90% merino, 10% nylon, and it's in the colorway Plume. And it's fingering weight. 400 meters for 100 grams. And then this one is also fingering weight. This is dyed by Wild Star Fibers. And it is in the Shooting Star colorway. It is on the Supernova sock, fingering weight, 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon. It's 437 yards to 100 grams. And the winner of both of these hanks of yarn is Michelle at Lindgren9478 on Instagram. Congratulations to you, Michelle. The next prize is these 2 skeins of yarn. The first one is by Active, and it is, I believe, a German yarn. It is 75% superwash virgin wool, 25% polyamide. It is in the color, probably just a number, I think 5668 would be the color number. Yes, it is a German yarn. I think that's all the information I have. It does show a little pattern of how that should knit up. And then the second one is dyed by A Girl and Her Wool. It is 100 grams, 463 yards, and the colorway is called Bouquet. It is a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon blend. And the winner of these is Susan at Delightful Works. Congratulations to you, Susan. The next prize are these 2 skeins of yarn. They are both 50 grams each. They're Premier Cotton Collage. 46% cotton, 33% superwash fine merino wool, and 12% polyamide. Oh, and 9% PBT. They are fingering weight, 225 meters or 246 yards for the 50 grams each. And then you'll also be getting this set of yarn from Unique Sock, and it includes 2 matching cakes in here. And here is a picture of how a sock should work up using this yarn. This is color number 58. I don't think it has a name. It's 75% extra fine superwash merino and 25% nylon. And the winner of these is at Waning Gibbous Creations. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Congratulations to you. And the last prize to give away today are these 2 gorgeous skeins of opal sock yarn. I love them so much. I've never knitted with opal yarn yet, but I thought about keeping one of these for myself, but I thought, well, they just have to go together. So anyway, the first one is so beautiful. Look at those beautiful colors in there. This is, of course, also from Germany. Let's see. I don't think this has a name on the tag, does it? But the color is 9776. It might have a name on it, but it's in German, and I don't know what that says. I studied German, but that was a long time ago, and I never really learned it that well, I don't think. Anyway, these are both 75% superwash virgin wool and 25% polyamide. Here's the second color. Oh, and these kind of show how it should knit up too, I think. Yes. So there's a picture of that one, and then here is a picture of that one. This is color number 5525. Anyway, so the winner of these two beautiful skeins of yarn is Stephanie at Fern Mama Makes. Congratulations to all of you winners. Please get in contact with me through direct message on Instagram and let me know your mailing information, and I will be so happy to get these off in the mail to you as soon as possible. Today I am wearing a hand knit sweater. I can't remember how long ago I made this, but it was several years ago. I test knitted this sweater for Audrey Berrego. It is called, I never really remember how to say it. I think it's Centaurea is how it's pronounced. And I really love this sweater. I wear it so often. It's one of the sweaters that I grab on a daily basis just to throw on over any outfit. It's in this really dark color that looks black for if you're, just glancing at it, but it's actually a super deep teal color. I wear it a lot, so it does have a lot of pilling on it. I could probably de-pill it, but I haven't done that recently. It is knit in Knit Picks Stroll fingering in the Midnight Heather colorway. I really think I might make this again because I do love it so much. And it has beautiful detail on the cuffs and on the hem and on the raglan. But since I made it in such a dark yarn, you can hardly see it, but it's got these beautiful cables on all of the ribbing, and then also on you really can't see it on the raglan, but right here there's a little bit of cabling on the raglan. Increases as well. It's knit from the top down. And yeah, I really think I should make another one of these because I wear it so often. And Audrey Berrego recently has decided to step away from designing, and therefore she's put all of her patterns, I think there might be a few that are maybe under contract or something, but all of the patterns that are under her ownership, I guess, or if she has freedom to sell them or not, she has made all of those patterns free. So I just looked it up, and there are 180 free patterns designed by Audrey Berrego, and she does excellent. I think this is the only one I've knitted that she designed, but she has, I don't know why I haven't knit more of her designs because she's extremely talented. But since she is making all of her patterns free, or since she has made all of her patterns free, then she may not be available to assist with questions about the patterns as much as she would have been prior to having them be free. She's still going to be available to answer questions, I think, but she just said it may be limited on the amount of assistance she may be able to help if you had any questions. But on the other hand, I know that she always was very diligent about testing all of her patterns and getting them tech edited and things like that. So I'm confident that her patterns are very well written and should be very easy to understand. And I think if you did have any major questions, not understanding something, I think she would eventually get back to you. Maybe it would just take a little bit longer than normal or something like that. So anyway, definitely go check out her patterns. I'll link to her Ravelry shop in the description box below. Okay, I have a few finished objects to share with you all. I, probably not surprisingly, was able to finish this blanket that I've been working on for several months, because last time I recorded, I just had the edging to finish up on this blanket. This is a pattern that I got from a leisure arts book called A Year of Afghans 1997. It is designed by a lady named Carole Pryor. And this blanket pattern is also available on Ravelry under a different name called the Golden Harvest Ripple. I started this on November 9th of 2024 and finished it on February 19th. And I was just using up some yarn that was gifted to me. I had several cakes of Lion Brand Mandala in 2 different colorways, Warlock and Brownie. I ended up using 2 full skeins of the Warlock colorway, which you can see right here actually. It's went from this brick red colorway and again went all the way down to this brick red colorway. So that's the color repeat of the Warlock colorway. So I used 2 full ones of that and then a partial third skein of that one. And then I also used 2 full skeins of the Brownie colorway. And that is shown here. It had a lot of neutrals. So it went from cream down to this cream. So that's that color repeat. And then I did use a little bit of a third cake of the Brownie colorway for my border. So last time I recorded, I was sharing with you how I was trying out some different borders. My problem with this blanket was that it was curling. The edges were both curling in quite a bit. I did make some modifications to this pattern. It's originally written to use worsted weight yarn, and this yarn is DK weight yarn. It's 100% acrylic yarn. I did not change my hook size, so I used an H5mm hook, which is what's recommended with the worsted weight yarn, but I still used it with the DK weight yarn. And I like the gauge. I don't think it's too loose. It's still a nice gauge. I did chain an extra 20 stitches when I started the blanket because I knew that my yarn was thinner, and so I wanted it to be a little bit, I didn't want it to be too narrow because of my thinner yarn. So I chained 20 extra stitches when I started. And I just worked through the cakes of yarn completely. I started with Warlock. So I started down on this end and I crocheted through the entire cake, and then I switched to Brownie, and then I went back to Warlock, and I did another cake of Brownie, and then I did end off with a little bit more of Warlock, but just some neutral colors, so you can't really tell. Then for the border, I was trying several different things. Last time I recorded, I think I don't really remember what I was doing, but I was doing something. I finished what I was doing last time I shared with you. Whatever I was doing, I can't quite remember now what it was, but I remember I finished a whole row of it and I laid it out, and it was really rippling. It wasn't laying flat with that border that I tried. So I ripped that all out. I tried several different things. Thank you so much to everybody who gave me tips in the comments section about things that I should try, because I think I tried everything. Maybe I didn't try everything. I tried a lot of things that were suggested, and nothing was working, and I was getting pretty frustrated. So I decided just to rip out what I had added for the border and wash it and see if I gave it a full wash and laid it flat to dry, if it would lay flat. Because I looked on Ravelry. There aren't a lot of projects on Ravelry, but I looked on Ravelry and nobody else had a problem with their sides curling. From the pictures, I couldn't tell that their sides were curling. Nobody added an extra border to their sides. So I thought maybe if I just wash this and lay it flat, it will lay nicer. So I did that, and it did lay a lot better. It still was curling a tiny bit, but it was a lot better. But I still really wanted to add a border. And then I got a message on Instagram from a viewer named Gabriella, who suggested that I try a border pattern designed by Attic 24. It is called the Cozy Blanket Edging, and I had to modify it a little bit to work for my blanket, but I basically followed her pattern and it worked beautifully. So that's what I have done here. It is a 4-row border, And in her pattern, she changes color every row. And so I use the Brownie colorway, I think, although maybe this tan color is from the Warlock cake. But anyway, I did some color management to get different colors for my rows. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. So in the original pattern, I believe I had to change the stitch count for this row. Since my edges were a little bit different than what the pattern was on the Attic 24 pattern, I think I did 3 double crochet stitches instead of only 2. I think she recommended only 2 into each post stitch on the edge here. So it's kind of a granny stitch along the first row. And then for the second row, I was able to follow the pattern. That's just single crochet stitches. This is a free pattern, by the way, the border. I believe all of Attic 24's patterns are free on her blog. The third pattern, or the third row, I modified that as well because in her pattern, she calls for you to do a single crochet with a chain 2 in between. And, oh no, I'm sorry. She recommends a single crochet with a chain 1 in between. And I started doing that and I found it was too tight. It was pulling. So I did single crochet and then chain 2, and then you skip a stitch in between each. And then for the last row, I did follow the pattern for that. The only thing I modified was I had this space where I ended my blanket and then my border was ended here, and I just did a few single crochets along this edge on all 4 corners just to kind of tie it into the rest of the blanket. So anyway, I'm very, very happy with how this turned out. Thank you again, Gabriella, for recommending this pattern. Gabriella has a podcast as well, but it's in German. So I tried watching it, but of course I don't understand anything. But it's still nice to see the projects that she's making. So if you do speak German, I'll link to her podcast as well. She said that she's thought about recording in English sometime, so I hope she does. Anyway, the final measurements for this blanket are 46.5 inches wide and 62 inches long. And I'm really happy with it. I don't think I've ever mentioned that I don't know who this blanket is for. I'm just making it to have as a gift to give down the road someday. So I don't oftentimes make full-sized blankets or larger throw-sized blankets like this one is to give as just random gifts. I have had that. I can only think of one other time when I have had a full or larger blanket on hand to give, and I ended up giving it as soon as I finished. Oh no, I guess there's been a couple of times, but both times, but I think the other one I'm thinking of, before I even finished it, I thought of somebody I could give it to. I don't have anybody in mind for this one, but I'm really happy to have a blanket done that I think will hopefully go with a lot of people's home decor. I don't know, there's a bit of color in here. It's not completely neutral, but I think the colors are neutral enough to go with a lot of people's homes, I think. So I'm really happy to have a blanket that I can have on hand to gift to somebody whenever it will work out. I'm gonna go ahead and stand up so you can see it in its entirety. So I hope you can tell the size of it when I hold it here. I don't know if I suppose two people could cozy up under it, but it's really comfortable for one person to use. And like I said, it's 62 inches tall. So that's pretty good. I have it on the floor now. I'm 5'10" and it comes up to my nose. So just to give you an idea of how big it is. But I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. And since I added the border, I just am really happy with how it's laying. It's pretty good on laying flat now. So I'm so pleased with that. And I think it turned out really well. I was also able to finish my February Colorwork Cuff Club socks designed by Summer Lee. And I absolutely love how they turned out. I think they're so beautiful. This was definitely one of my favorite colorwork charts that she's come out with so far for the Colorwork Cuff Club. I love them so much. I can definitely see myself making this pattern again. I started off with casting on 60 stitches using US 0.2 millimeter needles. I did 12 rounds of 2x1 ribbing. After the ribbing, I increased my stitches to 72 stitches, and I increased my needle size from 2 millimeter needles to 3 millimeter needles. I also switched to 9-inch circulars to work the colorwork section. For the colorwork colors, I used obviously lots of little bits of yarn. I know that the bright pink and the deep indigo color are both from Pineapple Yarns. This lighter peachy pink color is by Paintbox Yarns in the blush pink colorway. The bright green is Knit Picks Stroll in the key lime heather colorway. And I'm not sure about that periwinkle color. I don't know what that one was from. The main color that I used is by a Homespun house, and that was gifted to me by a viewer of this channel named Joy. And it is an older yarn, I think back from 2018, if I remember right. I'm going off memory on that one because I don't have the tag with me right here, but it was called Ginny's Visit to Zonkos. It was on a 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon base. After I was done with the color work, I switched back down to my US 0.2 millimeter needles and reduced my stitch count back down to 60 stitches. And I did a total of 70, I'm pretty sure I did a total of 70 rounds for the leg. Then I did a slip stitch heel flap for the heels. And I added in 30 rounds of a slip stitch detail before my toe decreases to prevent getting holes in that section of my socks. And that's very similar to a heel flap. So I do 1 round of slip 1, knit 1 on the bottom of the sock only. And then the next row I knit all of the stitches, and I repeat those 2 rounds for a total of 30 rounds before my toe decreases. And I just did a rounded toe for the toe. I started these on February 1st, and I finished them on February 26th. And let's see, I think that's it actually. I loved making these so much. I loved the color work, and I absolutely loved working with a Homespun house yarn as well because it was so fun to see all those pops of color. And I think they work really well I just love how the colors in the Homespun house yarn go along with the color work section. I think they are super fun. And there will be another Colorwork Cuff Club pattern coming out tomorrow, although last month she came out with the pattern, I think the last day of January, so maybe she'll come out with it even today. I haven't checked, but at least, at the latest tomorrow, we should get a new colorwork pattern for the Colorwork Cuff Club, so I'm so excited to see what she has in store for March. I also was able to finish another classic ribbed hat, which is a design free on the Purl Soho website. It was designed by Jake Canton, and I showed this as a work in progress on my last episode. I was holding 2 fingering weight yarns together. One of the colors was just more of a tonal or solid, almost solid, but kind of tonal turquoise color that was dyed by Anna Knitter. That was gifted to me in a swap that we did several years ago. It was on a base that was 100% high twist merino. And then the other color that I held with it was a lighter turquoise color with lots of bright speckles in it. But that is a mystery yarn. It was gifted to me by a viewer of this channel named Nicole, but it did not have a tag on it, and she wasn't certain what it was, but I'm confident it was a fingering weight yarn. And so I held those 2 together to get a DK weight yarn, which is what I have been doing a lot. I've been making a lot of these hats lately, and I've been holding 2 fingering weights together to get a DK weight a lot of the time. I started this hat on February 12th, and I finished it on February 21st. I used US 3.25 millimeter needles. I made the adult small size, but I knit it longer to a total of 9.5 inches before I did the decreases. So it's quite long, and it has a lot of room to fold up a very generous brim. This hat is knit from the brim up to the crown, and then it has these beautiful swirly decreases on the crown. This hat weighs a total of 93 grams, and I am really happy with how it turned out. This is another one that I'll just add to my gift box to give down the road. I just love the fit of these so much. I think they're so cozy and comfy, and because they're ribbed, I think they'll be great to fit a lot of different sizes of heads. I have a pretty average, I think, sized head, and so it fits me well, but it definitely has room to stretch if you had a larger head. And since the ribbing just cinches in so much, it really, I think, would work for a lot of different sizes of heads. So that will be another nice thing to have as a gift for someone down the road. I have loved making those hats so much that as soon as I finish one, I start another one, and that's what I have done in this bag that I sewed myself a long time ago. I think it was one of the first project bags I ever sewed. I have another classic ribbed hat on the go, and I am using up the leftovers of the Lion Brand Mandala yarn that is left over from the blanket that I finished. So this is using the Brownie colorway, and I'm doing the same exact thing, making the adult small size using 3.25 millimeter needles, and I am just working through the Brownie colorway. So it's going from a dark gray, and we're just getting into more of a tan color. So this will be a nice neutral hat as well. And I started this on February 21st. So that's a nice and simple project to have on the go. I'm not really sure how many of these hats I'll be able to make with my leftovers, but definitely 2, maybe more than that. I really have no idea how many. I haven't weighed how much yarn I have left over, but I have a lot of the Warlock colorway, almost a full cake of the Warlock, as well as almost a full cake of the Brownie. So I should be able to make quite a few out of that leftover yarn. Okay, my other works in progress. That was the only new work in progress. All the other ones you've seen before, although one of them is a scrappy blanket that I haven't shown off for a very long time. But the first one is being held in this bag I also made myself. And this is one of the projects from my Make 9 board. It is a vest that I have gotten out of this Knit Picks pattern collection called Wood Smoke. It is the Inishmann vest designed by Mary C. Gildersleeve. Here's a picture of it. I am cropping mine by 3 inches. So that is one of the many modifications that I'm making. This pattern calls for you to use worsted weight yarn. I am using sport weight yarn. It calls for you to use US 6 4mm needles. I am using US 4 3.5mm needles, and I think my gauge is still looser than the pattern calls for. I started this project in December of last year, and I had to, well, I started making the 3rd size, and it was turning out enormous. So I ripped that all out, and I started afresh on January 21st, making the smallest size, and I went down another needle size from where I had started. So I started with a US 5, now I'm using a US 4 3.5mm needle. And anyway, I think it's turning out, I think I'm gonna be happy with it, hopefully. I am making this using some Knit Picks yarn, a discontinued Knit Picks yarn. It's called Knit Picks Upcycle Alpaca Blend Sport Weight in the Squirrel colorway. It is 33% alpaca, 34% wool, and 33% acrylic. Since I recorded last, I've made a good amount of progress on this. There is the progress keeper that I had marked from the last time I recorded. So I've made a couple of inches of progress on the body. And I have, like I said, I'm cropping it 3 inches. The original pattern calls for it to be 3 inches longer, but I stopped short because I wanted it to be a little bit shorter, obviously. And I have bound off under the underarms. So this is the right front and the back are both on hold right now. And I'm currently working on the left front. And in the book by Knit Picks, they eliminated an I-cord edging that Mary C. Gildersleeve had put in the original design, and she doesn't know why, but in the publication they eliminated the I-cord edging on around the armholes. But in the comments section on this pattern in Ravelry, Mary C. Gildersleeve has responded to several comments about different things about the pattern, and one of those comments, she gave the instructions on how to add the I-cord edging back in for the armhole, around the armholes. There's an I-cord added, and so I have done that. And so just there's just 3 stitches for I-cord edging along the armhole. So I've only done maybe 1.5 inches of work here on this left front piece. But it's pretty easy now because it's really just a 2-row repeat at this point, because the only cabling I have to worry about is this one right here. And that just, or I guess it's a 4-row repeat, but every wrong side row is the same. And then every other right side row, I cable on this section right here. But it's pretty simple to keep track of. So I'm just using this little progress keeper that has a row gauge on it, so I can move that to know if I'm on a cable row or a plain row on the right side, if that makes sense. Anyway, it's really simple to work on right now. So I just need to do this for a number of inches for the right front, and then I think I'll go over to the left front. Wait, other way around. I'm doing the left front. I'll go do the right front, I think, next to make sure that those are both matching. And then I'll do the back. And then, follow the instructions from there on. Obviously it's knit from the bottom up. And I am making the button band as I go, according to the instructions. There is an option to add buttonholes, which I am doing, but that's on the right side. So they're pretty small and kind of hard to see, but there's a tiny one right there. Anyway, so this is coming along well, and I think now that I'm done with the bottom of the body section, I think maybe I'll be pretty motivated to continue working on this steadily so that hopefully it will be done soon. We'll see. I did block, before I bound off the underarms, I blocked the whole piece to see where it was laying, to see if it would stretch out very much. It did not stretch very much lengthwise. It did stretch out quite a bit widthwise, so I'm confident it will be definitely big enough for me, even though I'm making the biggest size. My gauge on this is just way off. The original gauge calls for 24 stitches to 4 inches, which I just don't understand how that's possible with worsted weight yarn. It's not even possible for me with sport weight yarn unless I were to go down more needles, or more needle sizes. So anyway, I think I'm probably still getting a larger or looser gauge than the recommended. I didn't actually measure it after I blocked it. I should have done that, but I'm pretty confident that my gauge is still loose, and there's not anything more I can really do about it at this point, so it'll be fine. It'll be definitely wearable, and I think I will enjoy having it. Okay, my next work in progress is my other garment that I have on the go, and that is being held in this beautiful basket that I thrifted. It is a free pattern called the Saga Cardigan. It is designed by Venkia Ruwal. And I'm making a lot of modifications to this one as well. I have stopped working on the body for a little while, and I've started working on the first sleeve. I want to show this to you before I flip it right side out. I think I've had a few people question me about knitting colorwork inside out. That is what I do with my Colorwork Cuff Club socks. I didn't mention that this time, but when I do the colorwork section, I do that on 9-inch circulars, and I work that inside out to get my floats to be as loose as possible. And I'm doing that on the sleeves as well for this. So as you can see, I have a tube of knitting. I have my sleeve on a short circular, and the right side of the work is on the inside of my tube. The wrong side of my work is on the outside of my tube. And as I hold my needles, I'm looking at the inside of the tube at the right side. So I hold it, I'm looking at this side, but my floats are going around the outside of my work, and I am knitting along here like normal, but it's just that I have it flipped inside out. And that allows the floats to be carried around the outside of the tube and allows them to stretch a little bit more than they would if you had the tube with the right side out. So it doesn't change your knitting at all. It just changes the way it's being held, like the way that the garment is flipped. It doesn't really change your knitting at all. I mean, it's not hard to do it. It's just flipped. So anyway, I'll flip it right side out now though, so I can show you how it's coming along. I am making the medium size for this pattern. I'm using sport weight yarn for this pattern as well, but that is what is called for. I'm using a bunch of scraps of yarn. The main color that I am using is by Columbia Minerva Skylark, and it is 50% nylon, 50% virgin wool in the charcoal colorway. And I have another one of these in the dark Oxford colorway that I am using for one of the contrast colors. And then I'm also using 3 colors of Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Sport Weight. They are Blossom Heather, Pampas Heather, and White. And these are 100% Peruvian Highland wool. That is a modification from the original pattern. The original pattern only calls for, now I can't remember, I think 3, so the main color, 2 contrast colors for the majority of the cardigan, and then on the cuffs and the edging, they use a 4th contrast color. But I am changing mine up quite a bit to use up all of these different colors that I had on hand, and I just wanted to use them up. This is knit from the top down. It is knit in the round and is then steeked up the front. So you can see these stitches right here are my steek stitches. I will cut it open and then add the ribbing at the end. I'm having to do a bit of, I'm not sure if I have enough of all of my contrast colors to make this completely a full Colorwork cardigan. So I'm weighing my yarns a lot to make sure that I do have enough. I want my body and my sleeves to match, but if I run out of the contrast colors, then I can continue the rest of this cardigan using the main color in just a solid color. So I have worked through my change of how I'm laying out my colors. This is one full repeat of how I am doing the color work. So my next color work on the body will match this top one. I'm also making some changes. I'm making a lot of changes, but on this section and this section, the pattern calls for you to use that 3rd color of contrast, and I'm not. I'm only using 2 colors for these sections here. So anyway, I'm making a lot of changes. I started off with US 2.5 3mm needles, which is what is called for, and then on the main body I'm using US 6 4mm needles, which is what is called for. This one has a gauge of 22 stitches to 4 inches, which I was able to meet. The ribbing is 1x1 ribbing, and I am making the size medium, but I did split for sleeves sooner than what was called for, which is typical for me. I hope I don't regret that. I hope it's not too snug. I kind of am wondering if I wish I would have made it a little bit more oversized than what I am making it, but hopefully it'll work out. Right now, my stitch count is in between the small and the medium size, but hopefully it'll work out. I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, I finished one repeat of what I'm doing for the color work, and then I started on the first sleeve. And again, I'm weighing all of my yarns to make sure that everything will line up appropriately. I'm not going to be doing any sleeve decreases, which is also typical for me. And I'm just going to knit my sleeves straight and then do a rapid decrease right before the cuff. That's my plan. I think that's all. Oh, I guess I could show you what progress I made on the body. I only did this one chart extra since the last time I recorded on the body, and then for the sleeve I just have started with this pink one and done just a couple of repeats of the pattern on the sleeve. So that's really fun to work on. I've enjoyed it. I haven't put a ton of work into this one since I recorded last, but it's going pretty well. I started this on January 11th. I have 2 more works in progress to share with you, and actually, now that I think about it, you haven't seen either of these in a little while. But this one is one of my scrappy blankets, and I hardly ever show this one off because I hardly ever work on it, because this is my granny stripe blanket that I use the tiniest of scraps go into this blanket. And so it takes me a while to save up enough of those tiny scraps. I like to add a bunch all at once. And then whenever I do add some in, it takes a long time to work on this because I join all of those little tiny scraps. I'm putting anything under 3 grams, I think I noted that. Yeah, anything under 3 grams goes into this blanket. So anyway, I worked on this while we had a snowy weekend, I remember. It was right after I recorded last time. The weekend after that, I worked on this that weekend. And I was able to add quite a bit to it. So here is a progress keeper marking where I was the last time I showed this, which was very, very long ago, I'm sure. I don't show it off very often, but I was able to add quite a few rows to this blanket since you've seen it last. And I just love it so much. I think that this is going to be such a fun blanket to have someday, a long, long, long time from now, because it is such a slow growing process to make this blanket. I started this in July of 2020. I am using a C 2.75 millimeter hook. This is all fingering weight yarn. Like I said, everything under 3 grams goes into this, and I have used pieces like only this long, so maybe 18 inches or so. Usually if I have anything less than that, I will just throw it away or add it to, I've been saving all of my little scraps lately to use as stuffing. And I use the Russian join method whenever I join my yarn, so I don't have any ends to weave in, which I think is great. I really like the Russian join method, especially for scrappy blankets. It seems to work really well. And I think also especially, no, I have a knitted scrappy blanket that I also use that for. I was going to say especially with crocheted blankets, but it can work with knitted blankets as well. That other scrappy blanket that I'm using, that I'm knitting, is done in garter stitch. So I think garter stitch kind of hides the Russian join as well, because when you do the Russian join, you do have just a few stitches where your work is going to be a little bit thicker because you're basically holding 2 yarns together for a few stitches. Anyway, I really love how this is coming along. It's just so incredibly fun to have the tiniest bits of yarn in there. I started with a chain of 300, and I used a tutorial by Bella Coco to show me how to make this blanket. Really, it's just a granny stitch, but basically I just needed to know how she did her edging. So it is such a beauty. I love it so much. Even from one side to the other, it's different because the yarn changes so much. I really love seeing the different color combinations and thinking, whenever I'm working on it, I always think of like self-striping yarn. Like I get to a section, I think, oh, that would make a cool, right here, that would make a cool color stripe for socks. It's just so fun to see the different colors come together. I love it. So anyway, there's a quick update on that project. And then I have also started on another project from my Make 9 board, and it is a project that I started a while ago but have put on hold for quite a while. It is a blanket that I am making. I'm using one of the motif patterns from this Crochet Kaleidoscope book, and it is by Sandra Eng. I am using the pattern number 77, which looks like this. I am using some yarn, well, I'm using all DK weight yarn. I have it held in this basket that I also thrifted. I thrift all of my baskets basically. And last time I worked on this, I had already made 13 of the hexagons, and they're being held in this bag. I am using, like I said, oh, I'm getting covered in lint and stuff. I am using all DK weight yarn. Let's see if I can arrange it so you can see it all. There's two different brands of yarn that I'm using. This one, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the main color, which I don't have much of in here. I have more in my closet, but so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those 5 colors are all Daramore's Studio Anti-Pilling DK in powder, rose, blush, olive, and lime. Those are 100% acrylic. All of the yarn is 100% acrylic. And then the other yarns are Knit Picks Brava Sport Weight, but they're mislabeled, I'm pretty sure. My cousin sent me those, and they are actually a DK weight according to the yardage. So I have some Knit Picks Brava Sport Weight that has more yardage than these. These have less yardage, and I think these should have been marked as DK. These colors are Tranquil, Cornflower, Lady Slipper, and Seashell. And I am just I'm combining the yarns as randomly as possible to get a nice mix of all of those colors. Here is one of them that I have made. So I've made, I think 12. Yes, I think 12 since I showed this project off last. Since I recorded last, I've picked this up and I've made 12 more of these hexagons, which they are so much fun to make. The very first round uses puff stitches, and that's a little bit tricky, but it's a really quick round. You know, it doesn't take much to make that one round. And then the rest of the pattern is super easy to work up. I'm using a 4mm hook. I started this blanket last year in July, and I am using the main color for the third round and the last round. There are a total of 6 rounds. And I'm only making one modification to the pattern. On the 5th round, you're supposed to work into the back loop only for all of the stitches, but I'm only doing it for one stitch, which is the stitch that you need to work into. On the last row, you skip down a couple of rows and work into the front loop of a stitch, but you don't need the front loops of any of the other stitches. You only need that one. So I just do a normal, on that one round, I just modify it a tiny bit. It's no big deal. Anyway, I do make another modification. She calls for a magic ring, and when I do not like using the magic ring, I've had issues with that not holding and coming loose. So I just do a chain 1 instead of a magic ring, and then I work into my chain 1 stitch. And I always do that whenever there's a pattern that calls for a magic ring. I just use a chain 1 instead and work into that chain 1 stitch. So I love how these look. I should have been showing these off to you while I was talking about it, so you can see all the different color combinations that I have worked up since I showed this off last time. I just really love all of the different color combinations. I think they're so fun. I'm trying to remember, on a few of them I've forgotten, but I'm trying to remember to leave a little bit of a tail at the end of each of them, because I am planning on sewing them together when I'm all done. I had originally tried to crochet these together. That's what I a lot of times will do, is join my a pieced blanket like this, I will join as I go when I'm crocheting them. But I didn't like how that looked in this pattern. So instead, I'm just going to sew them together at the end. And I think I have decided to make this a baby-sized blanket just because I think the colors are going to be more appropriate for a baby blanket rather than a full-size blanket. Because I'm planning on gifting this blanket when it's done, and I think these colors would probably be a little too bright for most people to have as like a blanket they'd put in their living room or something like that. I think it'll be great for a baby blanket. So that is my plan. And I think I laid it out this morning to see how I kind of want to lay it out. And I think I'm just going to make a larger hexagon. So I'm just going to continue to piece it together in the shape of a hexagon. I think that will work the best. Because I really think that if I did a rectangle, then it would probably look the best if I did some half hexies to make some of the edges a little straighter. And I don't want to do that. I don't like doing half hexies very much. And there aren't directions for making a half hexagon of this pattern. So I would have to figure that out anyway. And I really don't enjoy the process of making half shapes. And anyway, so I think that I might just make a baby-sized hexagon blanket. That's my plan right now. It might change, but that's my plan for now. So I think that's all. Yeah, that's all of my works in progress. I do have a gift that I was given just yesterday that I wanted to share with you all because I love it so much. We had some friends visit us yesterday, and two of their daughters actually gave me gifts, and they're in here together. But I got this very cute basket. It has these little compartments in it that she has put goodies into. She gave me this cake of yarn by Artiste. It's 100% mercerized Egyptian cotton, number 10 crochet thread. Oh, that is a gorgeous color. I love it so much. It's one of my favorites. I'm not sure what I'll do with that, but something cool. And then she also gifted me some cotton yarn, and I need to make some more dishcloths because my stash has been depleted of what I had made before. So these are both, I believe these are from Hobby Lobby. They're Crafter's Secret Cotton. And this one is called Purple Confetti. And this one is called Nebelese Spices. They're both worsted weight, 100% cotton. And they fit in these little compartments so perfectly. She made me a couple of cute things. This is a bracelet and a keychain, or I could put a hook on there and make it into a progress keeper. But it's a little big, probably. I'd probably use it for a keychain instead. And she also gifted me, I love these so much, these adorable needle stoppers or point protectors. So there's 2 mushrooms and 2 gnomes. So the gnomes have they would fit on larger needles, and then the mushrooms have a tinier hole for thinner needles. They're so cute. I love them. These are also from Hobby Lobby, I think. And then one of the other daughters gave me this adorable little horse charm. So I'm going to put a ring on there so I can use that as a progress keeper as well, or a clasp, I mean. So I was so thankful for that. So thank you, girls, if you're watching, so much for these goodies. I love them so much. So that is everything that I have to share with you all. I hope that you enjoyed seeing the things that I've been working on. I hope that you're enjoying the things that you're working on as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all take care. Bye-bye.